Joel Freeman has earned the right to mentor leaders and entrepreneurs. He wears so many hats. He has a Master of Science degree, a Ph.D. in psychology. He's a great counselor for change and anger management, a former pastor. He was one of the first chaplains in the history of the NBA, ministering with the Washington Bullets for 19 years. He introduced me to the Black Pharaohs way before National Geographic did. It happened right here on this program, in fact. The CEO and president of the Freeman Institute is making films, taking artifacts into schools, and opening people's eyes to history we might have missed. And he's originally from Three Hills, Alberta. Oh, I'm so glad I had that reminder, Joel. Home is Maryland?
Yes.
When you get there?
Yes, it is.
But you're originally a Canadian.
That's
and
right.
We're so proud of what you're doing.
Very much in my heart.
Now, how did you become interested in the Rosetta Stone?
Many years ago, I heard about the Rosetta Stone, and it really impacted me. And the reason why is because of its impact on archaeology. I realized that there are many people that had contributed to the understanding of the hieroglyphics, and that in turn unlocked the secrets of ancient Egypt, and then also informed the whole soft discipline of archaeology and biblical archaeology, and it just really fascinated me. And so then when I told my kids they can go anywhere in the world with Dad when they turned 15, son number 2 wanted to go to Egypt and Italy, and so we spent 5-6 days in Egypt, and it was just an astonishing experience going to the Giza Plaza, to Alexandria, and then we went to the actual site where the Rosetta Stone was found on the west bank of the Nile. And that was just one of the high points of my life.
Now, 2 important things in case we're messing with your mind here. You've just tuned in. Rosetta Stone, you were telling me some people think it's a woman. My daughter is learning French with Rosetta Stone. But that has, well, I shouldn't say it has nothing to do with this. It's a language learning product, yes, right? Based on the theme set by this very important language tool.
Yes.
But this is what the real Rosetta Stone is. That's what we're talking about. I did not know it was a city.
That's right.
Rosetta.
Hence the name.
Yeah. Okay, so already we've got some ahas happening here. Hold this one up, Joel. This is the face.
Yes.
Of the stone.
This is a small replica of the face, right?
That was not enough for you.
No. This, let me just give a quick overview here. This is the hieroglyphics. This is a demotic script, kind of a cursive form of hieroglyphics. So it's really 2 inscriptions of the same type of language. And then this is the Greek. Now, why the Greek? Because Alexander the Great conquered Egypt in 322 BC, and this was the language of the realm in terms of dealing with various types of topics that have to do with legal issues and things like that.
It would be the language of commerce at the time.
That's right. And they knew, one of the gentlemen was a savant. He knew what the Greek said. And then it's the last line, it says, the same thing is to be written in all 3 inscriptions. And they go, oh my goodness, wow, this could crack the code to understanding the secrets of ancient Egypt. So
just to be clear, when they got to the last line, which they understood in the Greek,
yes,
it said, this is a repetition of these.
It's like a parallel version.
Wow. Well, we're going to show some clips of the documentary that you've made. And the first one deals with your inspiration for getting the 3D version of, your very own Rosetta Stone. Let's watch.
The original Rosetta Stone is currently displayed at the British Museum in London, England. And from all indications, sometime in the 1970s, the British Museum made about 12 to 15 first-generation reproductions of the face of the original Rosetta Stone. I was able to acquire one of them. And immediately I began to think about, I saw here's the face. Now what if we're able to reproduce or reconstruct the sides and the rear of the Rosetta Stone and then make a full-size 3-dimensional replica of the Rosetta Stone? How cool would that be? And how, what kind of impact would that have in educating hopefully literally millions of young people of all ages. It bears a remarkable resemblance to the Rosetta Stone. And of course the provenance is, to my knowledge, this is the first and the only full-size three-dimensional replica of the famous Rosetta Stone in the world that's available to the general public.
Now, so people come to you if they want a full-size version, and they do, Joel, do they?
Yes, it took 6 years of research and development to put together the full size. I acquired the face of the Rosetta Stone. It was one of just about a few that were made by the British Museum.
A dozen or so.
Yeah, and then we thought, how cool would it be if we create the sides and the rear, had a sculptor work on it, and then now we have about 8 different models of the Rosetta Stone.
I told you, entrepreneurial. What will we think of next? Now, we haven't said the name Napoleon. Really, it was his soldiers. It was the French troops that discovered this.
Yes.
And I think in the next clip from the documentary, we get a marvelous insight into the history behind the Rosetta Stone.
Now, the port city of Rosetta is located at the mouth of the Nile River in Egypt, right along the coast of the Mediterranean Sea. And in 1798, Napoleon and his French troops decided to attack Egypt, desiring to cut off the trade route between Great Britain and India. Napoleon mobilized some of his troops to build a strategic military fort known as Fort Julian, which was near Rosetta on the west bank of the Nile. And as they were digging out the old foundation of a structure, they came upon this rather large rock. It was about 45 inches tall, about 30 inches wide, about 11 inches thick. There were 3 different inscriptions on it. And so at the top part you have hieroglyphics. It comes from the Greek language, which means priestly carvings. In the middle part, a Coptic language, a kind of a Coptic language, a Demotic script. And in the bottom, Greek. They read the Greek and they realized that in the last sentence it said the same thing is going to be written in all 3 languages. And they thought, oh my goodness, we have just stumbled upon a treasure. Because if we know what the Greek said, then we can determine perhaps what the hieroglyphics is saying. Because as they looked around, there's all these different hieroglyphic inscriptions, and no one knew what it said. And they thought, maybe if we can crack the code to hieroglyphics through knowing what the Greek said, then we can crack the code to the secrets of Egypt.
Well, Joel, there's a marvelous theme. It's one you emphasize, and it's definitely going to be reinforced in the next segment from the documentary. It's what I took away from this whole process, this discovering this great treasure and unlocking the code, which has really changed the world in so many ways. Perseverance. This took teamwork. You found and highlighted the men who really represent an international coalition of persevering men.
Yes. What happened is that you had this animosity that was brewing amongst many between the French and the British. Because basically when Napoleon went into Egypt, he was kind of putting a thumb in the British eye, and he was going to form an alliance with Tipu Sahib in India, who was a Muslim, and they were going to form an alliance to come against Britain. He wanted to cut off the trade route to India, and so there's a lot of stuff brewing. So now you have this Rosetta Stone that the British have acquired because there was a capitulation treaty, and one of the elements of that treaty between the French and the British was all the stuff that the French got with their 167 intelligent savants who had gone all around collecting this stuff. They got the Rosetta Stone, which was actually the booty. This was the prize of the entire Egyptian military campaign, which is a debacle from a military standpoint. And then when they got this, you have all these different individuals involved. Some are Swedish, some are French, some are British, and it's just the whole idea of how we're going to work together. So what I've decided, just by my research on this, is that this is a metaphor. It's a metaphor for international relations. It's a metaphor for problem solving. It's a metaphor for solving relational problems. It's a metaphor for conundrums, cracking codes, puzzles. In fact, I spoke last year with the National Security Agency and had a whole auditorium full of cryptologists. And they were quivering with excitement, because this is the granddaddy of cracking codes. And so it's the whole idea of we got a problem. And, you know, people have problems in families, people have problems with their business, in these tough economic times. And so it's kind of like, how are we going to work this through? And so there's certain points that one can go through and figure out how this code was cracked and then apply it to their own personal issues and problems that need to be solved. It's really fascinating.
Sounds biblical, too. All good, all good. Now you're going to see the faces of the men who worked together with effort, we accomplish the maximum. Watch this.
Some of the key contributors include de Saussay, a Frenchman, expert in Semitic languages, able to identify symbol groups that comprise words, including some proper names. And also Johann Åkerblom, a Swedish diplomat. He noticed similarities between Demotic inscriptions and the Coptic language. And then there was Reverend Stephen Weston. He was an Englishman. He presented the very first Greek translation. You can't forget Thomas Young. He was an Englishman, a very smart man. First to suggest Egyptian intermixed symbols that were both alphabetic in nature and also symbolic and phonetic. He also found the value of 6 particular signs. And finally, Jean Champollion, a Frenchman, an expert in linguistics from an early age, who was the most passionate about deciphering the clues held by the Rosetta Stone. He did his own research, and he was able to piece together what others had discovered, becoming the one most recognized as the person who ultimately cracked the code to hieroglyphics. All these people had important parts in the 23-year quest to crack the code of the Rosetta Stone.
Now you can see the whole film, fascinating, on YouTube, or you can go to, oh, you're going to love this, rosettacrazy.com. And when you go to Egypt, you can get a brochure like this one. And can you see that all of those symbols are identified now? And before, it just looked like wallpaper or something. No offense, but really, it was just all hieroglyphics. Now we know what it actually says. It's wonderful. And Joel, I referred to the Black Pharaohs. Some people are not going to have a clue that what you are telling, particularly African Americans, is that their ancestry is not slavery. The starting point is royalty. The first pharaohs. I love this. You've turned it into galleries, and where are they, these galleries?
I have a collection over 3,000 pieces. Oldest piece dates back to 1553 of Black history items. And we're going to develop galleries all around the country in selected cities internationally. The Rosetta Stone will be the first thing people will see.
The 3D?
Yes, full size. And then it will become something that will take people back as a segue to ancient times. And once people understand the ancient African kingdoms and all the different rich history, now we're ready for the good, the bad, and the ugly of the last 4 centuries here in North America.
We all wish we had you for our history teacher, but thankfully you're spreading these wonderful insights everywhere. The stone was granite? Was granite?
They originally thought it was basalt, but then it's granite. It's a granite type of stone. It's an igneous rock. And it's a different, that's why it was able to be, how it could handle the age.
So long.
Be preserved for so long.
45 inches tall, 30 inches wide, 11 inches thick. And we now know a whole lot more about this marvelous archaeological discovery. Just stay curious and persevering, Joel, and then come back and show us what you found.
Thank you very much.